Hey Tarek, how are you?
How's it going, Sami?
All good, all good. So what topic do we have today?
Yeah, let's jump right into it. We're going to be talking about dreams. And dreams are really, really interesting in that every single human being experiences dreams. It doesn't matter who you are, where you're from, what you do in life, you're going to be dreaming at some point. So dreams are really fascinating because they're not very well understood. Like, does it actually mean anything when you're dreaming about something? Is there a specific dream you have that comes up more than once? And is that really significant for you? What happens in your brain when you're dreaming? Can you find patterns in the way your brain is, what the brain function is for people who are dreaming? Can you predict things about dreams based on someone's psychology or based on someone's neurochemistry and how things are happening in their brain? It's a really complicated subject. There's a lot of also traditional thinking around dreams. There is religious interpretations for dreams. So it's a really interesting topic. And however you think dreams are, it's really cool to tackle the subject and understand different points of view. You might be someone who thinks dreams are completely meaningless and they're just your brain throwing sporadic things at you. And you might be someone who takes a lot of deep meaning and insight in their dreams. And I think depending on how you want to live your life, either is okay. But there is some science, and we're going to talk about it. And there are other things that could be more beliefs, which we're also going to touch on, that could be really, really interesting.
Great. Nice intro, man. So, I think so. Like dreams, there's maybe let's start around with the social and maybe historical view around dreams.
Yeah.
So, I mean, every civilization has had some affinity with dream analysis and interpretation, from the Sumerians to the Babylonians, all the way until, more, biblical and monotheistic faiths.
Yeah.
So dreams is important. I think that's clear. It's clear from a personal point of view and the societal point of view. A few just views around it. So from looking at some examples, dream analysis was thought to be something of a skill by certain people at the time.
Yeah.
And people, trusted these people, sort of like the oracles at the Greek time, to interpret messages from the gods, from spirits, from the life beyond as well. So there's so much around that.
Yeah. So if we were to talk specifically about how dreams appear in religion, for example, there are multiple, I think most religions have some semblance of dream in them. I know that the word dream in the Old and New Testament occurs more than 100 times. So there's a lot of emphasis on dreams historically and through the more modern Abrahamic religions. Can you talk about something that a specific story that comes to mind about dreams from a religious perspective?
Sure. There's a very famous one surrounding the prophet Yusuf or Joseph, and he was a prophet that was characterized by having a number of dreams throughout his life. First one of which in the Islamic faith is he, at a young age, dreamt that 11 planets and the moon and the sun were bowing down to him. And that's an intense dream by anyone's standards.
Yeah. So what did that symbolize?
So it signified at the time, he had 11 brothers, mother and father. So the planets, coordinate or relate to his brothers, and moon and sun, obviously, to his mother and father. That was a message that he is to become a prophet, and he's been selected out of a few people with this task of being a prophet. And he had that, I want to say, skill set throughout his life, because even as he went through certain hardships, I think he was in Palestine and then moved to Egypt at the time. He was also imprisoned. Long story short, I'm distilling his story just for the purpose of the podcast.
Yeah.
While in prison, he was in a cell with a number of people, and they realized that he had this skill around dream interpretation, and they sought him and said, okay, can you interpret this dream for us? One of the ones that I recall now, a gentleman dreamt that birds were eating from his head, from his open head, and that's
a bit disturbing.
It was.
I wouldn't. Yeah.
Right? And I mean, it signified for that man that, well, his time was, coming to end. So it's sort of like the crows eating from, a carcass.
Yeah.
And then time and time passed by, and he remained in jail. And word reached the pharaoh that there was this, person who can interpret dreams in jail. And the pharaoh had a very sort of disturbing dream at the time around the. I'm not sure if you've heard about it. The slim cows, fat cows.
Oh yeah, the seven cows, 7 slim cows, 7 gaunt cows.
Absolutely, and there's this dynamic where the slim cows eat the fat cows, the healthy cows.
Yeah,
and
then there was a famine, right?
Exactly. So all of that was around the pharaoh and the entourage of the ruling elite.
Yeah.
And it was disturbing for them. They couldn't interpret it. In comes Yusuf, who, long story short, says that, okay, you're going to have 7 years of good harvest.
Yeah, based on those 7 cows.
Based on those
seven fat cows, 7 years of good harvest, followed by 7 years of famine.
Yes, so essentially, guys, prepare for 7 years. In these 7 years, stock up, supply, keep your supplies, intact, because you're going to have 7 years of famine. And well, he was rewarded by being out of jail and was part of the.
That's a really interesting story. So dreams tie into religion that way. I know that in Buddhism, for example, dreams are your path to enlightenment, basically. So with your dreams, you can become a better person, and you can become closer and closer to that concept that Buddhism has called nirvana. So dreams plays a really important role in Buddhism. Okay. In Judaism, they believe dreams are part prophecy. So it's similar to Islam in a small way, but in Judaism, it's more of a blanket statement rather than what prophet dreams mean. Where I think the saying they have is like a dream is a 60th of a prophecy.
For the average person, I guess.
Yeah.
And then the percentages rises for prophets.
I guess so. I mean,
makes sense.
Yeah. And from a less religious point of view, but more of a traditional one, we can talk a little bit about the Native Americans who have this device. It's like a woven device. It's really pretty. I'm sure if you see pictures of it, you'd recognize it. It's a dream catcher. And what it's meant to do is usually like you'd have them in bedrooms over a bed, or you can have them on top of the infants that are sleeping on top of their cot.
Okay.
And it's supposed to catch the bad dreams. That's why it's called a dream catcher. It'll catch their bad dreams and stop them from affecting the person. And the good dreams will be the ones that are filtering through. So
that's interesting, because it seems like they're classifying the dream state as not maybe part of your unconscious. Rather that it's like
there's an external force.
Yeah, that's coming towards you because you're in a vulnerable state. You're asleep. Yeah, and that is like a prevention. So, which kind of is against what maybe modern science or Freud would think about dreams.
It's definitely like more of a belief system than it is grounded in any science.
Yep.
But there are a lot of like schools of thought where they believe that dreams are the doors to the spirit world, and it's the way that you as a human being connect with the spirit world. It's when you're asleep through dreams. So there's messages that come to you from outside your own existence in dreams, and that's where the concept of dream catching comes in as well. And that dreams are not done in you, by you, and contained just in your brain. There are external factors that
so it's a more spiritual view rather than a psychological, which is
and I mean, there are people that say that your dreams are influenced by the ghosts that are around you. Ghosts, I personally do not believe in ghosts. There are people who do believe in ghosts, who say they've seen the ghosts. I'm not one to, decide whether or not they exist. But dreams can be influenced by a lot of things depending on your traditional point of view, how you think. Ultimately, we don't really know. Like, there is no solid, concrete answer to why we dream and what those dreams mean. We just have like ideas and theories, obviously, about that. But it's really interesting, like the historic significance of dreams. I think that you know, how for as long, maybe even before humans invented language, dreams existed. So they've been with us for a long time.
Maybe they helped create language.
Very possibly. You were telling me, I think, like the other day about, was it the periodic table that came into someone's dream?
So the gentleman is called Mendeleev.
Mendeleev,
I think he's Russian.
Yeah.
And he, again, just, making it simple, he sort of dreamt of the periodic table. He was just juggling these like concepts around.
That's insane.
Chemistry and elements. And he dreamt of the placement of all these elements. And here we are with the periodic table that he just dreamt of. And there's a quote in his biography or in his book that talks about just how he just pictured and structured it. I mean, that's just amazing.
Yeah.
How a dream could do that. And I think it's very common with certain artists, writers, musicians, that dream plays a big role.
Yeah.
One other example, Thomas Edison, I think maybe this is a known example, is he believed in the power of dreams to help him in thinking.
Okay.
And what he would do is sit on an armchair, a large armchair, put plates on the floor, and hold 2 metal balls in his hands, and wait for himself to fall asleep. Now, the minute he falls asleep, those metal balls would drop, hit the plates, and wake him up. But in that split second, he would have a dream. Like it's a longer period. That 1 second is almost like an inception. It's a longer period in the dream, and ideas would come to him. He would see things and jot it down immediately.
Right.
So that's just Thomas Edison, on a normal day, going about it.
Falling asleep in an armchair with metal balls in his hand.
Not advisable. But
I mean,
whatever works for you.
Yeah. If you want to try it, sure, go ahead. I don't know if I can fall asleep holding something, but that's like a completely different topic.
Yeah.
Well, a funny tangent is that my uncle used to fall asleep holding a cup of coffee for like 10-15 minutes, wake up and still have it in his hand.
No way.
Yep. Yeah. Like those small Arabic coffee cups.
And you've seen it? Because
I've seen it.
Okay.
I've seen it.
Okay, because motor functions are like you're sort of paralyzed.
Kind of, I guess, but there's something that happens that keeps him holding that. I don't know.
Wow.
I don't know what it is.
Okay.
For me, there's a book that I'm working on writing, and the idea of the book, the world that the book is set in, came to me in a dream. So I was just, I woke up one morning. Like it's a cliche. It's such a cliche story. I woke up one morning and I'm like, holy shit, this idea, I need to write it down. And I didn't dream of a story specifically, and it's like fantasy / maybe a little bit of sci-fi. I dreamt of the world that the story exists in, where it's these little countries that are like islands instead of being big continents, and the ocean is like it's made of golden clouds rather than it being just a regular sea. The ships look very different because they have to traverse that different type of ocean. All the creatures on that planet are light based, so they're made of light, kind of, instead of being like regular. So that kind of concept, because it's so vivid in my head, I thought that I wanted to write it down into a story. And I've always been someone who's interested in fantasy, so it made sense. But dreams driving the creative process.
Yeah, I mean, because it seems like it's like an easy way for world building, and that's what happened with you.
Yeah,
because they're just so, they throw things around. It's random. Your dream is random. It's chaotic. You never know how a dream starts. You never know how you transition between scenes, because you really are like, you're witnessing scenes. It's like you're seeing reels of like a film.
Yeah.
I think that's a good way to describe it.
Yeah.
And it just throws you around. Like suddenly you're with this person, and then you're just like flying with a random person, something like that.
I mean, yeah, it does seem very random at times, but there are definitely instances where dreams can seem really profound. Yeah. Have you had any like experiences with really profound dreams? Do you have anything that comes to mind?
Something. I mean, nothing really that like woke me up, thinking deeply. But what happens personally is more around frequency of certain dreams.
Okay.
The very common ones like falling, flying, running away. and you can't run at the speed that you would like to.
Right.
I think this is a very common one where you feel like sort of like you have weight. You're just like carrying weight. And I play football a lot, so I dream about football, and I can't run. Things like that. Weird one happens where I dream about university and that I'm still trying to complete my degree.
Okay.
And it's happened.
Dude, I get the same exact dream.
No way.
Multiple times. And it's not just about university. It's about missing an exam.
Wow.
And that's the final exam of the last subject. If I fail, I won't graduate.
Okay.
And I wake up in my dream, and I miss the alarm that's meant to wake me up to go to the exam.
Oh my,
and I'm still sleeping. Like this is in my dream. And I try to scramble to get to the exam hall in order to be able to finish my exam and graduate. And in my head, there's all this like thinking about like what my parents are gonna say because I missed the exam and I'm gonna have to do another semester, and it's just it's bordering on a nightmare because I'm so stressed. Are they stressful as well for you?
They are.
University dreams.
And I feel like, is it like, okay, let's try and derive some meaning. Is
Sure.
it like a humbling dream where you kind of need to go like, okay, is it a metaphor for that you're always learning? That you always need to keep learning, that you're never really complete? That's like one positive way.
Okay.
Is it another one around maybe you should just relax, take things easy? It's not as stressful. Don't take things too seriously as well. So there's so many ways you can take it. And why do I keep having this dream? And maybe we can jump into like Freudian thinking, where this is clearly our subconscious or unconscious is manifesting this aspect of your dream, the content, to give you a certain message. Now, we're going on a tangent here a little bit, but it could be, and this is where maybe Freud, some people have his theory in mind, but very, very loosely, right? They don't really believe in Freud's thinking anymore about manifest and latent content.
Yeah.
But there seems to be some like maybe intuitive, agreement with that why do I have a frequent dream? Why does it keep happening?
It has to mean something, right? Like,
Yeah.
why would your brain give you the same imagery if it's supposed to be completely random and chaotic?
Exactly.
You're not going to get a recurring one that you're going to remember.
Or is it like just flipping a coin and like every so often it's going to be hit on heads? And then you go like, okay, well, does this look really random or not? And, maybe it is random and the brain is just finishing options, because it only has a number. I like to think of it as well like a blender, that it's just being fed so much information. Your brain is constantly, the attention is everywhere, from social media to people to your life stresses. And your brain is just like at night trying to like reorganize, right? It's trying to keep your memories. It's trying to as well. One theory is overnight therapy. So there's an aspect of I'm trying to forget things. I'm trying to put things in order, and I'm trying to like help you out on some things that aren't that conscious.
So it's kind of like defragmentation. Do you know the concept of defragmentation in computing? No. So files and things get stored in random parts of the hard disk. With the new SSD drives, that's not necessary.
Okay.
But in the old hard drives, data gets stored in random order.
Okay.
And ultimately, when there's a lot of data and information stored, and I'm not a computer technician, so I might be butchering this, but the process of defragmentation is the reorganization of the data stored so that the similar types of data are stored in like their own silos, and so that they're condensed in one part of the drive. What that does is it makes your computer a lot more performant, it makes it faster, and it frees up storage space. That defragmentation process. So I think there's some connection there with when you're dreaming, your mind is defragmenting your emotions and the things that you've learned throughout the day.
Your short-term memory, the attention, everything you've absorbed throughout the day and weeks and so on.
And I don't know if dreams specifically play a part in this, and I think they do, because the new research says that when you're sleeping, you're always dreaming. It doesn't matter if you're REM or stage 1 or stage 2 sleep.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
The difference is the types of dreams that you have. And the thought now is that the dreams you have during REM sleep are the ones that are likely to make it to your hippocampus, where your memories are stored.
Okay.
Even though that process isn't like, it's still very loose in a sense where you forget most of your dreams, even in REM sleep. Some of them manage to get stored, especially if you like wake up in the morning and you actively think about them for an extended period of time. That's when they get stored. If you wake up in the morning and you sort of remember them, but you don't think about them, they're gone. In like 15 minutes, you're not going to remember what you dreamt about, which I've experienced.
Okay.
So the point that I'm trying to make is that when you're dreaming, you're sleeping, and they're both tied together. So sleep is the way that your body deals with healing emotional trauma, with healing, even physical pain. Like if you have a wound or something, when you're asleep, the healing process gets amplified. But I think part of that is dreaming, because they're so intimately tied together, and you're dreaming almost all the time while you're asleep.
I didn't know about that. I mean, obviously, I think this is maybe like how we thought common. The view is that rapid eye movement is just that's the period.
That was previously the thought, that you only dream in REM. However, that's been refuted by modern dream science, which is called oneirology, I think. So you're kind of dreaming most of the time that you're asleep, not just in REM. But REM dreams have a particular flavor where they're much more vivid. There's like more imagery involved.
Yeah, it's visceral, very visceral.
And it's more likely to make it to your hippocampus, in a sense that you're going to remember REM dreams, not other types of dreams.
But just on the point that you said, if you don't think about the dream the minute you wake up, that there's a chance that you lose it.
You will.
Most likely.
Yeah.
I've had a weird instance where random points during the day.
That also happens. I know what you're about to say.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay. And you're hit with a thought, and then I'm like,
shit, I dreamt about that last night.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
And you go like, at sometimes, like even more bizarrely, is that, do you think about dream memory? That in a dream, you're experiencing something, you're experiencing an event, and you think it's the first time, but then in the dream, you're aware of the dream. It's a form of lucid dreaming.
Right.
And then you go like, oh, this is dream memory, that I'm reliving a dream I had previously.
Right.
I don't know if it's the state when you're trying to sleep, that these come to you, these like sort of dream memory, and then you go like, wait, did I think this was real?
Yeah.
This was a dream.
Such an odd sensation.
It's a very blurry period,
because like, how could you even, like, you're trying to compare reality as you're perceiving it versus a reality that your brain is showing you while you're dreaming, because it's actually super interesting how your brain can form an entire 3D reality with different 3D characters, different emotions, different stimuli. Like, when you're dreaming, you don't just see stuff, you feel stuff, you smell stuff, you can taste stuff. And an interesting part of that is, I was reading about how blind people dream.
Yeah.
And the reason I was interested in that concept is because we, and by we I mean like people with sight, dream, and we remember dreams mainly in imagery, and like how the imagery made us feel and how the experience made us feel. So I was interested in finding out what it would be like if a person has congenital blindness, like they are born blind, what do they see in their dreams? Does their visual cortex get activated? Do they actually see stuff, or are they dreaming more like auditory and other sensory dreams? And it seems like the research around this is divided. There hasn't been a lot of scientific research, but there is a belief that blind people do actually see things in their dreams. And I'm really interested in digging a lot deeper into that, because I feel like that'll be like a pure form of what your brain's visual cortex will show you without it having any external idea of what the world actually looks like. It'll be like the purest form of visuals from a human perspective.
But I mean, it's still getting in inputs, right, from different means.
It does, yeah.
And I think, did you say that maybe before that maybe their dreams are much more vivid?
Yeah.
To compensate, you know, like they live it much more, you know, it's more visceral to them.
It's more visceral. It's not more vivid. Their imagery is less vivid, according to
really?
research.
Okay.
But they dream a lot about getting from one place to the other and the difficulties when it comes to movement and to travel. And the research says that they're like twice as likely to experience those kinds of dreams. And it ties back into how dreams actually do tie into what happens in our daily lives. Like there's a school of thought where dreams are completely random, but if they were, why would blind people dream a lot more about traversing the world and motion? Because obviously when they're blind, they'd have difficulty doing that because they can't see around them. So that's why their brains give them those dreams about how they'd get from place to place and the difficulties they face doing that. I think deep-seated emotions, sometimes even repressed ones, might visualize or like actualize themselves in your dreams. I don't think it's as cut and dry as like Freud would say, because Freud says, I think it's something along the lines of the dreams are the royal path to your subconscious. I think that they are a rocky kind of mountainous path that it's not a clear line.
No, absolutely.
But there is a connection. Like I'm almost 100% sure there's a connection. There's a period of my life where I was in a very bad spot mentally, that I had a lot of nightmares. Nightmares are really bad dreams. I don't have them now. I'm in a much better spot in my life. There's a connection. Yeah,
it ties back into overnight therapy. And the thing is with Freud, I think what I remember at least is that it became an obsession, and he underwent this view that there's like some code or formula to be able to interpret the dream, you know, to be able to expose the, you know, manifest from the latent content. And so his theory has been cast aside now. The thing about it is that they can't really prove it or disprove it,
right?
So that's why it doesn't really have any scientific, you know, merit and any basis, so they moved aside from it. One thing I wanted to ask, is it true that we don't dream in color? Have you ever dreamt in color? Because I've heard this. I'm not sure.
I have.
Okay.
For sure. Like that world that I woke up envisioning was full-fledged color.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know. I haven't come across the concept that you dream in monochrome.
That's, you know, it's just that now thinking back, I can't seem to remember, you know, colors, you know, like that vividly. I don't know if I read this somewhere or someone just told me it, you know, in passing. But it seems that it could be that we just don't, you know, there's no colors. Maybe
my brain kind of, when I woke up, inserted colors into what I was seeing. I can't tell you for sure, but I have a bunch of dreams that I remember, and all of them contain color in my head. And I don't know if it's because post-dream, it's like some post-processing that happened in my brain that inserted the colors.
It's just like...
or if I actually dreamt them. I'm not sure.
Okay.
I guess we can check that out. Like if there's a scientific... I'm sure it's really hard to scientifically prove that you dream in color. Like, how are you going to do that as a scientist?
The thing is, on that, we talked about earlier, in Japan, they've actually done an experiment in 2013. Kyoto, if I'm getting this correctly, and they were able to distill certain themes of people's dreams based on MRI scans and based on a template.
Right.
So they were able to say that, okay, we think you dreamt of a man, not a woman. We think you dreamt of a car, not a dog.
Right.
And to a certain level of accuracy, they got it.
So they based their predictions on how the MRI scan looked, because of like some templates they had stored based on people who dreamt about things, and they've scanned their brains, so they know like what the activity is like. Or
exactly. And even when you're awake, so like they show you things and they'll see how your brain reacts.
Oh, so they record. So like they show you an elephant.
Yes.
They see the patterns in your brain
To a certain extent, something like
in
that.
a way, and
Yeah.
then when you're dreaming, if that pattern shows up, they're like, "Oh, you had an elephant in your dream," that kind of thing.
Something like that, yeah.
That's pretty interesting.
It's yeah, and
It's a bit scary, but it's
it
interesting.
is, and it's also like a bit of invasion, right? You know,
yeah,
is that
like hey, that's my private dream.
That's my dream, exactly.
Yeah. So you talked very, very briefly about lucid dreaming, but I think
Yes.
I want to dive into that just a little bit more.
Yeah, I think this is one of the most exciting parts about it.
It's
is
so
that-
cool. I've only had one dream that I consider semi-lucid.
Really?
It wasn't fully lucid.
Okay.
But lucid dreaming, basically from a scientific perspective, is when you're dreaming and your prefrontal cortex is activated, which doesn't happen often at all. There are reports that some people can do that on a whim. Like they can just establish control of their dream
Yes.
while they're in the dream. Scientifically, I'm not sure how much merit there is behind that concept, but lucid dreaming is real.
Yes. Yeah,
And the definition, well, I don't know if it's the official definition of it, but what lucid dreaming basically is being able to control your actions and what you're doing inside your dream while you're dreaming, and
Yes.
being aware that you are dreaming within the dream.
Yes, I think like colloquially, it's more around the control. People take it to be awareness of the dream. It's more around the control.
Yeah.
And as you said, there was a lot of skepticism from science around. They used to brush it aside.
They dismiss it like,
They
no way,
dismissed
that
it.
doesn't happen. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's. I mean, I've experienced it. I've had instances where I'm aware and I'm in control. So both, and it's interesting. And I think what they say is,
Were you aware you were dreaming?
oh yeah. I was
yeah.
aware and I was in control. Like
Yeah. I've had that as well.
I was easily. This is one of the dreams that sticks with me. I'm on top of a building,
Right.
and I'm dreaming. I'm gonna jump this, and I jump. And
You took the decision.
I
Like
took the
you knew
decision.
you took the decision.
Definitely.
And what
I'm
happened when
telling
you jumped?
Nothing. Just walked by. I felt like a boss, because I just jumped from a building, and then I walked by, and I think it was in Abu Dhabi. I think
So
I
did
was
you
still
jump
living
from
there.
the building to the ground or from a building to another building?
Building to the ground.
Damn.
Yeah. I
Okay,
just whoop.
superhero shit.
Yeah, I just whoop. Okay, yeah. Continue my day. Like nothing happened.
Yeah. Hancock over here, just jumping buildings.
I mean, you know what I mean? What am I doing in the real world? Let me go back to the dream world.
No, mine was, I was hiking through the woods.
Okay.
And then I just felt like, okay, this is all a dream. I'm dreaming right now. And these are some beautiful woods. So I started in my dream making decisions about where I want to walk to, what kind of plants I want to investigate, trees that I want to touch. And in my head, what's really crazy is, okay, I'm dreaming now, and I'm dreaming about this tree in front of me, and I'm gonna touch it, and I'm gonna see how this tree feels in my
Really?
dream, so
Okay.
that I can feel. You know what I mean?
Okay,
It's so crazy because while I was dreaming, I'm thinking that there's no way this tree is real because I'm dreaming it. I want to touch it to see how it feels in my dream.
Oh my God.
Can you imagine?
Yeah.
And I touched it, and it felt like a tree, and it blew my mind in the dream. It's like, damn, this actually feels like a tree. It's crazy.
Yeah, and it's maybe risky, right? Because then you start to you don't want to get too into the dream state.
Yeah.
When you inception, right? I think
it's
that effect of you can't separate dream from reality. I don't know if that's it's an issue, but
it's not a real issue. It'll be there's probably some psychiatric illness that does tie separation of dream from reality.
Yeah.
I don't think sane people, or people that are sane is not a very good word, but people who are mentally well.
Yeah, not drug induced.
Yeah,
right?
either drug induced or have mental illnesses. People who are mentally sound don't usually have that problem, no matter how much they lucid dream. There are, though, reports of people who end up wanting to sleep a lot more because in their dreams they have a lot more control over their life than they do when they're awake, which is a pretty crazy concept.
Wow.
But it's because they got so good at lucid dreaming that they're even able to dictate what they're going to see in their dream.
Okay.
So for me,
it's a game.
I wasn't dictating what I'm seeing. I was dictating what I'm doing and deciding on doing as a
Okay. Yeah,
but
yeah.
the next level is actually projecting whatever you want to project and living through it, which that seems like such a crazy idea.
Yeah.
I'd love to experience
Wow.
something like that, but I could see how that could lead you down a rabbit hole of depression, where you're waking up and you're okay, the real world is so mundane compared to what I
Shitty.
just experienced.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That's active world building. So that's literally the kind of the script of Inception in the sense.
In a way.
Because I think it was it Cobb and Maul in the movie. They built a world.
Yeah.
They grew old.
Yeah.
And so I mean that world building is. I mean, it was heavy on the woman's mind, even if it's a movie. I think there's
there are some. Obviously, you can take some of it to reality, and me personally, like that specific movie didn't resonate with me as much as other people.
Oh, it didn't? Okay.
I mean, I liked it, but I didn't think it was like this, because a lot of people think Inception is one of the best movies and stuff.
Okay.
Generally, Christopher Nolan stuff.
Okay, yeah. Attachment to the director. Yeah.
I mean, there are some concepts that I feel like are so fuzzy, and the way that he chooses to do them does not coincide with what I believe to be reality. And that's what, like the levels of dreams and Inception and stuff, I'm like,
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
Because I was just going to ask, have you experienced Inception? Did you wake up from a dream to another dream?
I have, but that's not because there are levels in dreams in the sense where Inception takes it. You know what I mean? Like to me, he took it too far. I mean, that's just because I'm a bit of a stickler for these things. Like if a movie is taking itself very seriously, I tend to evaluate the concept that they're offering to me very seriously as well on a personal level. Okay. And I stop taking it as an entertainment as face value, even though that's what it is. It's a weakness in me, really, not in people who enjoyed the movie.
Yeah.
But the there are concepts in Inception in regards to like world building and stuff in lucid dreaming that I feel like, they do marry with reality and they make sense in a way. But that whole aspect brings me to a point where some people think that dreams are like projections into another world, either a spirit world or a different world entirely, like in a different universe, where your consciousness is being brought into your brain by the universe in some way, which is completely, like, it's very outlandish, right? Like, and from a scientific perspective, dreams are contained within the mind, not from external stimuli. But are we really in control? Like, are our brains the only thing that is manifesting what you're dreaming? And to test this, I know that scientists did some research by trying to prod people while they're asleep. Actually, there's an experiment which is, they taped people's eyes open and they forced them to fall asleep with their eyes open.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Okay. And then they started showing them things with their eyes open while they're asleep to see if they're going to dream about that thing, or to see if the dream is going to be related to that
thing. So if your eyes are
them.
picking up on the stimulus.
Exactly.
Okay.
The results of that experiment was no. Like the eyes did not pick up anything from the outer world. However, there are other experiments that are for auditory sensory. So, for example, they like play a bit of music in the background while you're asleep, and then when you wake up, some of them tend to actually make them through to your dream. So what's really interesting is, like, your eyes weren't getting any input, but your ears actually sometimes do, which makes a bit of sense, because if you hear a really loud noise, you tend to wake up. So there is some, I guess, connection there. But the difference is they don't hear what the person's playing in their dreams. They hear like a manifestation of music in general. Like, for example, you played a small piano symphony for someone while they're asleep. In their dreams, they were part of this huge orchestra and a lot of music was going on, and it's super exaggerated.
I like this point because it brings 2 points. One is maybe that adds a bit to the fact in Inception where that song was the kick, right? It was the the message throughout every dream.
Right.
So maybe he actually researched that, and it's a fact. And the other thing is, when you're asleep and your phone rings, you hear it.
Yeah.
You can hear it in the dream. I've had those dreams where I hear the phone ringing and I'm asleep and I'm trying to snooze the phone and it's not snoozing.
Because you're not actually snoozing it. You're just dreaming
because
that you're
dreaming
snoozing
that I'm snoozing. Exactly. And then and you're frustrated, and it's only till you realize that, oh, I'm dreaming, and you wake up and then you go like, okay, now I'm going to snooze this damn thing. And it happens very often.
Yeah.
Around the sound. So, but that's very interesting that the eyes don't pick up, but the ears do.
Those are the studies that I've personally read. I'm not sure
there's an evolutionary, aspect to it from a survival point of view, because you'd want to hear if like
A predator is approaching.
exactly
Or like
right.
danger.
It made sense because anyone that his ears while they're sleeping didn't function, end of that line
Yeah.
of human, right? Because when you're asleep, you'd want to be safe.
Yeah. And there are interesting...
What about smell? Actually, sorry.
Smell
to cut you
also is
off.
a sensory. I don't know about whether or not, like if I put a perfume under your nose while you're asleep.
Like a fire, right? Because are there instances where people slept through a fire and
Yes.
they
Yeah.
didn't feel it?
Yeah, and so the thought is that your sense of smell is gone, similar to your eyesight when you're asleep. So whatever you smell during your dreams shouldn't affect your dreams because you're not really getting that sensory input.
Okay.
Again, I haven't really looked into how much research there is on the topic, but there is a lot of evidence of people sleeping through fires. And I don't know if that's because before they get the smell, which should be super, super strong, they get the oxygen deprivation and they're unconscious, they're not asleep, which makes them die in the fire. On a different note is one of my closest friends, Ray, if you know him, he had a fire in his house and the smell of smoke actually woke him up, according to him.
Okay.
So he woke up
Without an
smelling
alarm?
smoke.
No alarm,
without an
nothing.
alarm. It was like 3:30 a.m.
Okay.
He woke up, opened the door, walked, and there was a fire in the kitchen. So his whole house burnt, by the way. But he was able to wake his parents up, his family, and they went outside, and the fire just engulfed the whole house in minutes. So if he slept a few minutes more,
That's it.
it would have been very, very dangerous. But I don't know if the smell actually woke him up or if it was something else. But there's something there, right? It's weird.
Maybe they need to look into this more because just to, for people's safety and so on.
I mean, I don't know. I don't know how much in-depth studies there have been, but obviously there are cases where they slept through the fire. A lot of cases where people
Sadly,
didn't get up. But jumping to a bit of a more lighthearted topic.
Yes.
One dream that I've had more than once, which is interesting, and I don't know how other different dream interpreters would interpret it, is height dreams, which seem to be pretty common, like you're in a really high place. But this specific dream, I was standing above the clouds on a stack of books that were all piled on top of each other.
Okay.
Like one layer of books, like thickness is one book. Just on top of each other, up above the clouds, and I'm like teetering on the books, with one foot hanging on the side and one other foot on the books, and the pile of books is swaying.
Okay,
because
it's wobbling.
It's wobbling,
Normal.
and it's like I'm trying to keep my balance and not fall, and then the books kind of like drop, like it crumbles, and I fall and I wake up. And that, I remember it because when you wake up right while you're dreaming, that's when you're going to remember the dream. Otherwise, you're going to forget it.
Yeah.
Like if you don't. So that, I don't know, like, is there an interpretation that you could...
I want to say, basically, because you spoke earlier about your, university dream. So I want to connect these two now that they're related somehow.
I don't know.
I'm doing Freud now for you. That clearly you have something with academia and knowledge and learning.
I guess so. I don't know.
Level.
Yeah, probably. So you think the books are a bit, tied to like learning, which makes sense. What about the falling part or like the teetering part? Because that was the more profound experience for me than the books themselves.
Again, just on a whim here is that you're trying to cram so much knowledge in one space, one angle, and you're not taking it step by step. For example, that's
okay. Take it.
I'm definitely not going to make a living out of a dream interpretation.
Yeah,
but,
yeah. It's like, am I going too fast? Like, should I slow down and try to absorb things better? I don't know what it means. I know that falling is a common
that's the thing
in dreams, and it signifies like uncertainty in your life. Sometimes it signifies growth, insecurities. I mean, everyone has their insecurities, obviously. Uncertainty is also an uncomfortable concept for most people.
It's weird because like sometimes you might dream about something that is so random, and other times you might see something that the next day you dream about it immediately.
That is true.
So there's no order whatsoever.
Yeah. What about faces in dreams? Like, have you ever dreamt of someone that you've never met, or you think you've never met
yes.
and remembered it?
Yes. Like,
Okay.
And the only way I explain it is that it's a face you saw on the mall that your eyes picked up, your mind picked up, but your eyes didn't.
Right.
Not consciously. But yeah, I've dreamt of people, and then I go like, why did I dream about that person?
And were they significant in your dream? Like, were they significant?
Exactly. Yeah, because otherwise, why would you like remember it? So like they play the role in the dream, and you're like, who's this person? I don't know him. Oh, okay, whatever. You know? But the other aspect I wanted to get into earlier, is sometimes when you're sleep deprived, you fall asleep and immediately start dreaming.
That's correct. I've had that.
That's a crazy one.
Yeah.
And then you wake up like 5 minutes later.
Yep.
It's like you're continuing the dream from last night, or
dude,
was it downloading and it wanted to finish the last?
I've continued dreams. Like
Yeah.
I've woken up thirsty, like parched, or like I need to go to the toilet or whatever. Have a drink of water and just go back to sleep immediately and continue. And I'm aware of it. I'm like, oh shit, this is the exact same thing I was just dreaming of.
Hold that thought.
Yeah, which is really cool. I think we need to start wrapping up, but. So what are like some final thoughts that you wanna let's try to kind of condense what we've talked about in a couple of minutes. So the science behind dreaming still very fuzzy.
It is fuzzy. There seems to be some merit around emotional health and overnight therapy.
Okay.
So that is going in a good light, especially around people with certain trauma. PTSD is another sort of beast on its own, but it has some there's some advancement there. There's progress.
Yeah.
From a lucid point of view as well, they used to think it's not possible. It's looking like it is possible. People are training with lucid dreaming.
Yeah,
so it is very possible.
It can go to like heights that are, unheard of. Like I would love to, I don't think I have the discipline to go there, but lucid dreaming and creating your own world in your mind, such a crazy topic.
It is. And I mean, it's a game ultimately. And as any game, you need to sort of balance and not, go too far. And I think might be a bit dangerous to.
It could be. From a psychiatric perspective.
Yeah, because again, we don't. There's so much we don't know. Like, what are you messing with? Really, it could be a can of worms. I don't know.
Yeah. Are we meant to? Are we even meant to do that?
Yeah, you're playing with your subconscious and areas that we still vaguely understand. Historically, I think there's a few books around dream interpretation. I think Freud has a book.
Do you have any recommendations of specific books about dreams, or like?
Not about dreams. Exactly, but there's a book that I was reading, Why We Sleep, by Matthew Walker. Is more around sleep in general, all the way, and it touches on dreams as well.
Sleep could be something we should talk about, actually, like sleep in general and the benefits of sleep. It touches on dreams. It's not exactly about dreams. Yeah, and we talked a bit about our dreams and our experience with dreams, which was pretty cool. And it's such an interesting topic. It really is. It's very hard to study because it's in your brain, and the brain is not understood. Like it's the least understood thing in the human body, and this marvel. The brain is an amazing concept.
It really is, and we're still I don't want to quantify how much we understand of it, because it's
very little. But dreams are basically your brain kind of regurgitating content at you, whether it be visual, emotional, or any other sensory. It's a really, really cool topic. I think this was a really good conversation. We touched on different aspects, like the science, the history, some of these, like the supernatural, I guess, where people think it connects them to the spirit world, or like ghosts affecting your dreams, religious perspectives on dreams, dream catchers, all of that. There's just so much to dig into and to unpack. But
one story that I wanted to cover, I saw it now just to remember, which kind of was a very pivotal period. During the Roman Empire, there was an emperor, Constantine.
Right.
And at the time, the Roman Empire was a pagan. It was pagan worship.
Yeah.
And Christianity had emerged and was beginning to spread.
Okay.
And he had a dream that he's in a battlefield, and his symbol was the cross. And then he woke up and just decided that, okay, I'm going to take the cross as my, signia or symbol for the empire. And he won a great victory, took over Istanbul, what was Constantinople, and ushered in a new era for the Byzantine Empire. So, I mean, that dream...
From a dream.
that dream says a lot, and it's a well-known, there's a biography of Constantine that spoke about this incident, and it's I mean, you can, like, it changed the world at the time.
Yeah, so dreams have significantly changed the world.
Yeah,
I mean, you even talked about the
aspect.
periodic table, which is
Yes.
huge.
Yeah.
So it's really interesting, and I had a lot of fun having that conversation.
Yeah,
And it's a really good
likewise.
story to end things with,
It really is.
Constantine and Constantinople and the whole cross thing. Yeah,
No,
I didn't know that. I'm going to read about it. So hopefully, whoever listens to this got some interesting ideas and is going to be a bit more aware the next time they dream, maybe. But
Absolutely. I think, definitely we can also, like, take in other people's, suggestions and maybe revisit this topic later.
Sure.
With other things, because I think we just scratched the surface.
Of course.
some
Like,
things.
neither of us are dream scientists. So
No, and there's
take
ton more
what we're
research.
saying with a grain of salt and do your own research if you want to,
Yes, yes.
find things out. But these were our opinions and our experiences.
Yep.
Yeah, cool. Thanks, Sami.
Thank you, Tara. Good stuff.
Thanks, everyone, for listening.